Hi, my name is Karlsson and I'm the CTO of Gigaclear, which is a relatively new company here in England. And we are specialized in building fiber in the very expensive part, I've heard today, of the area in England, the rural communities. This is a speed test done on Friday evening in one of our communities. So the company started, let me just see so I go in the right way, in December 2010. And what we actually saw was there was a big hole in the market in UK where nobody was doing anything. And there was a high demand for some kind of service that actually was reliable. We bought one other operator where we actually got control over the copper-based solutions, wireless solutions and things like that. And we realized quite soon after we built the first fiber network in Hamilton that the OPEX of having a fiber network is far more or less than having anything else on the market in England. So we have now built 6 networks and are building the next 3 networks in the area of Oxford and in Uppingham. And the biggest issue was actually what Neil said before, to actually get backhaul into these places. The technology and the way of building things, when you're building rural areas, you can actually use other technologies and other techniques to actually get out there. But the backhaul was painful in the beginning to get the price level of the backhaul that actually made sense to build something at all. Sorry, I missed one thing there. Yeah, we're also going to be, from May, a total open network with a wholesale model inside it. So we actually offer other operators to operate on our networks. So what are we doing? We actually invest and build networks for villages where we have 30% penetration from the beginning. So if 30% of the people sign up, they pay £100 in connection fee into the network. And our basic service is 10 megabit guaranteed bandwidth, and you can burst up to 1 gigabit on your line. And why do we have 10 megabit guaranteed bandwidth? It's just to guarantee that in the event of the network is full one evening, you know that you have your 10 megabits for looking at BBC iPlayer, ITV Player, or Netflix, Love Film, whatever you want to do. The normal average bandwidth in our network today is roughly 200 megabits per customer in peak times. So they actually have bandwidth enough. We connect to UK's backbone fiber network through cable and wireless, Vodafone today, and through SSE and Virgin for the moment. And we put a connection point to each and every property we pass. Because the expensive part is not the fiber or anything like that, it's actually the civil works. So if we put a pot inside the property boundary, when we're digging it, we can actually do self-install or install that property without opening the roads again in the next step. We have created a self-install kit, which means that the customer can actually install his own fiber, his own customer premise unit, and everything like that. And the last network had 55% of the customer doing self-install and self-activation on the fiber side, which actually takes away quite a lot of the mystics with fiber, how sensitive it is, how hard it is, how complicated it is, and everything like that. We do auto-provisioning of everything, which means that we have 0 touch to get the customer live. The customer activates themselves on the customer portal, and they also can do everything with fault management, case management on that portal. This creates a fast activation of the service for the customer. We're starting always our project to actually try to create an interest in it, because as we heard, it's quite expensive to build fiber. But at the same time, if you know really where you need to reach in the numbers and the cost of it. I mean, I'm Swedish from the beginning. I was quite impressed of the level of cost of building fiber in UK. So I've nearly asked a couple of my friends in Sweden if you should move the company from Sweden to England instead, because the payback on building fiber was quite much higher in England. But the other end of it is actually to try to get the same kind of cost of building something in England instead of doing that in Sweden. And we have reached quite far down in doing that. We're not talking about £1,000 to doing something. We're talking about far less than £1,000 to actually pass a property, and far less to actually pass and connect the property. We're always starting with design and build. And yes, we have power in our cabinets. We're building our cabinet and we terminate the local loop fiber in our cabinets. And the only cable that goes out from our cabinet is actually the backhaul cable that goes to our backhaul provider and then into our data center. We have very small cabinets. We found a manufacturer that had a switch where we can get nearly 500 ports, gigabit ports into a 9U high unit, which is quite high density. And the villages that we predominantly go to is roughly between 300 and 500 properties. So we can actually handle these villages in one unit that is 5U high. And then our backhaul is always 10 gigabit out of that village. And why do we use 10 gigabit? It's quite a lot more capacity than we need, but if we guaranteed each and every customer 10 megabits, and in theory, everybody never use everything at the same time, but if everybody use all the capacity at the same time, we need to have 10 gigabit if we have 1,000 customers, for example, in one cabinet. So the civil works in England, I spent my first couple of years listening to people saying that, yes, you can do that on the Nordic market, you can do that in the Netherlands, but you can't do that in England. After a while, people actually started to understand that you can do other things in England also. And the biggest thing that we discussed all the time was the choice of method to actually dig. One of our first projects, we had 4 contractors digging 1,200 meters for £35 per meter in 2 days. And I didn't wonder anymore after why the guy that was head of these guys actually drove a Ferrari. Because he earns a shitload of money of digging something that is quite basic. We started looking into chain diggers to mold plowing and everything like that, and we are now up to actually digging up to nearly 1,800 meters a day with mold plowing. And that makes sense then that the project actually have a better economy in it when you can actually dig faster and do things much faster. We have issues around way leaves with landowners and households and things like that. That is actually the biggest issue. A lot of people, even if you actually come to them and say, I'm going to put this little black lid on the inside of your property, on your garden. It's literally as small as your water post. It doesn't cost you anything. I'm not going to do anything, and I'm going to restate everything very, very nicely. And they still say no. It's quite extraordinary, because a lot of people actually have a house then that doesn't have that capability when the rest of them have that in the village. So the important thing here is actually to inform people all the time, and also take away the misinformation that they can get during the time when you're building, and get the committed, high committee, sorry, I missed the word, to get the community committed to the project fully. How did we build our network then? Nearly my only technical slide in this. It's a quite simple network with a layer 2 solution. Not layer 2 solution, it's only one switch between the customer and our backhaul, which means that we have taken away everything like distribution nodes and everything like that. So we have a larger solution in our data center and a smaller solution out in the village, which basically feeds up to 1,000 customers per hour nodes that we have out there in the network. So we have a lot of backhaul cables instead of having a lot of distribution nodes out there. And this is done because we want to have a very quick solution with not a lot of route hops inside our network. We're building the retail and wholesale model now, and this is our goal is to do a fully automated process around the provisioning, even if the customer on the other side gets another service provider than us, ourselves, or anybody else. This model is actually built quite a lot in the Nordic market and in the Netherlands and Germany and other places. And we are putting out this onto the market in May, end of May. So all our customers can actually buy a service from another service provider in our network. And they can do this through their own customer portal. We will actually not do any provisioning from our technical department when they actually change service provider in the network. On the Swedish market, for example, you have contracts with your service providers today where you don't have a time where you can leave. You can actually leave directly. And that is one of the goals for us to get in our network, that you have full freedom in the network to actually change your service provider when you want. Because that also will put some pressure on the service provider to have good customer care and have a good customer experience inside the network. So how much bandwidth do we use? We have roughly now today 400 customers on an unlimited 1 gigabit service doing whatever they want in our network. And this is another picture I took for the last time I had it, and this is in the middle of the night, and we're roughly using an average 20 megabits. We peak at 80, 90 megabits in the network. And what this says is that congestion in the network becomes a little bit different when it takes half a second to download iTunes or 1 minute to download a 4 gig file. You don't spend that much time in your network. And that is one of the reasons why we don't have a lot of concentration points in our network with distribution routes and routers and things like that, because that will actually build up bottlenecks in the network in the end of the day. Self-installation. We have made a self-installation kit and a self-installation guide for our customer where they actually can do everything by themselves. As I said, 60% of the customers in the latest project actually did self-installation. On the other side, we have subcontractors that offers to do the installation for £85. So that means that you have a choice. If you want to do it yourself, you can do it, or you let the subcontractor do it for you. A lot of people just put the fiber into a water hose pipe and put it in the garden. Just dig it down along the hedge or something like that. It's a Kevlar armed cable, and it's actually quite strong. We don't have any problem. We have less problem actually with the self-install nearly than we have with other customers. We have a customer self-care portal, which is built up where the customer can actually go in and review his own services. He can also do tests on his own router at home to see what equipment he has connected, what speeds he gets on the connection, what wireless speeds and quality he actually has on the wireless inside his house. And he's also, from this website, can also upgrade his service. He can change service provider and do everything like that, and also case management. So this is a picture of one of the customers in the network, what he actually can see by clicking on his home network. So he can actually see his router, what he has connected, what equipment is connected, and what speeds he actually is connected to. And this helps us a lot when we actually talk to the customer in a fault, when they have a fault, because we can actually show them that, yes, we have a lot of port errors on your LAN port 4. Can you please check your cable or something else on that port? And it's also helped the customer to understand himself what he actually has and what equipment he has in his home. So what we try to deliver something that is open, and we try to deliver something that gives you choice of services inside your network, like VoIP services or TV services and everything like that. So we only deliver the connectivity into your home on a very high speed. And that was more or less what I was thinking of saying today. Any questions?
Before we do the questions, can I just remind the questioners to identify yourself and your affiliation? Also, can you speak up? We're getting some complaints that the questions from the audience aren't coming through in the webcast. And I know Nigel will do another.
Nigel Titley, X6UK. IPv6?
What?
IPv6?
Yes.
Good, thank you.
There was somebody there, yes.
Ben Ward, MLL Telecom. Your wholesale, did you say there will be an API for it, or is it just a portal?
It's going to be an API and it's going to be fully integrated. We're working together with Fludata for the moment, but also with other people to that. So it will be a fully documented API where you can actually connect to it, and you get portals as a service provider in our network. You get a portal where you can control your own customers and services.
How do you educate the public about this open access concept?
It's strangely not so much education. A lot of the villages actually demands to have the capability and the possibility to actually choose another service provider. Some of them are really happy with TalkTalk and they want to have TalkTalk in the network, for example. So I think it is more a thing for the people to have the choice, to make a choice. I don't think anybody would like to buy a 40 megabit service from another service provider if you get nearly 1 gigabit for £37 a month. I think that is a very hard deal for TalkTalk or anybody else to compete with. But we don't have them really in the areas we are. We only have one competitor actually, and that's the copper solution in the areas we are.
James Bussing from Keycom. The traffic figures you quoted were for 400 customers, or was that an average per customer? The 20 megabits per second?
It's 400 customers for the moment in average. We have peak times today to roughly 150 megabits. But the thing is that people in rural areas have old computers, most of them using wireless, which means that the bandwidth consumption goes down. And that is the basic how it looks out there now. We have people that have between 8 and 26 wireless devices in the homes.
Yeah, so this is the problem. Are you talking about that's the average per customer?
Yes.
Right.
No. Average in our, that was our
aggregate.
out of our network.
Aggregate.
Yeah.
We don't have real computing in rural Oxfordshire.
Well, it's what it is now. It will probably go up quite a lot in the future.
Got a microphone.
Gary Law, Vivash. What's the smallest viable community for putting this together with?
The first community was 66 properties, and we have target communities now are roughly 300 to 400 households in. And we're looking also to actually bind communities together so we can actually take more communities and create a cluster of communities that reach around roughly 400 to 500. Yep. Next one.
We had a question in the middle here.
Hi, Tim Vay, ProView Communications. What does a CPE look like on the premises? Do you encourage them to just connect the PC straight into the box, or?
No, the CPE is Genexus titanium, so you actually clip it on top of the converter, so to speak, on the converter plate.
And does it give them an Ethernet, 4 Ethernet ports, or?
Yes, 4 Ethernet ports, wireless, and 4 wireless SSIDs on it.
Okay.
For 1 gig ports.
And do you have problems with people plugging in an old router that doesn't do a gig and then complaining it's slow, or do they just not have that problem?
Yes, of course we have. But we actually have a solution for that. Where we have sorted it out in the back of the systems.
Thank you.
Charlie from Fluency Communications.
Yeah.
Are you doing any pole and duct sharing with OpenReach to get around the country, or are you just digging your own ducts absolutely everywhere?
We don't have anything from BT at all in our network.
Congratulations.
And we will not have.
Tim Robinson from TXRX Communications. Yeah. What is the sort of the contractual agreement for a village to sign up for something like this?
That 30% of the households in the village contract for 12 months.
30%.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we commit to build the village. So after that, there is really nothing after the 12 months or 12 months plus 3. So it's actually 15 months.
Okay, we have Keith.
Hi.
And then Tom, and then I think...
Hello. Hi, Keith Hubble-Nominham. This is actually a personal interest question.
Yeah.
living in a large village which is going to be 3/4 covered by BT fibre to the cabinet. Are you interested in doing 1/4 of a large village?
It depends how many people sign up in that quarter.
So what's the mechanism? Because I've tried to go down this route with 1 or 2 community broadband projects. It always stalls getting enough people interested. The average consumer isn't even aware that you can get internet service from anybody but BT, Sky, Virgin Media, TalkTalk.
Yeah, we do. We have on our website.
Marketing is the problem.
You can actually go into our website and there you put in your interest for it, and we started campaigning in that area.
So you will actively campaign? Yeah. Right, okay.
That was the picture I showed with the meters. But we have roughly 270 of them standing waiting for the moment. So it's
Tom Bird from Portfast. First, I'd just like to say it sounds like you're doing some really good stuff. And second, if you wanted to connect into this network to sell services on it, where would you have to connect?
You can connect. For the moment, we are active in LD4 or in Links Fabric, where the link fabric is. But more or less any place. So if you just give me an email, we can actually just get up to where we can connect you. We are fully inside Vodafone's next or cable and wireless network, so actually any point where they are, we can easily get to that.
So Rob Shakir, BT. Hi. I was interested in your user projection, your user traffic levels, because I think one of the things we've seen is as you give somebody more bandwidth, even though they didn't think they were going to use any, then they start to use it pretty quick.
Yeah.
Do you have any view as to your current network architecture needing to push further intelligence out to be able to handle that? Not in terms of active traffic management, but in terms of things being able to more intelligently look at traffic and what's going on and prioritize traffic? Because your current architecture, I guess, is kind of limited if it's centralized in that.
Not really limited. We measured each and every customer and each and every service. So I have data every second per customer of what bandwidth they're using on what device. So we currently actually try to measure everything, but I think it's more a question of the state of the equipment and the scale of equipment that people have out there, because a lot of the people in these rural communities has a very old computer, because there are no reason to upgrade your computer from a Windows Vista if you have 256 kilobits. So they actually have kept their own computer, and lots of them actually comes back to us and say, I can't get a gigabit, I only get 90 megabits. And that means that they have an old computer. Really.
I guess, so I think the point around the growing bandwidth requirement is that person doesn't have to upgrade their computer anymore, right? They can go out and buy a UV box, buy some TV service. I think you mentioned IPTV, right? So
yes.
That's going to make quite a difference to your numbers, I think.
Yeah, but how much actually bandwidth will BBC iPlayer take in your network?
No comment.
Not that much, actually. If you have a 10 gigabit line down to 1,000 customers, you don't really have the problem. But yes, we will control the customers with quality of service out in the edge also.
I think evolving user demand is a really interesting area that is worth thinking about.
Oh, no, we're doing that. So we have the capabilities in the router to do all the quality of service per port, per wireless and everything like that. But when we started this project, in all fairness, we were talking about terabits of backhaul and things like that we were needed for our customers. But this is more a shocking thing that it doesn't use that much. I mean, peak times on Fridays now, we maybe reach up to 140 megabits in 8 o'clock in the evening time, which is very, very strange when you can actually do everything you want on the 1 gig. It is quite funny. It will be much more quite soon.
My users don't look like yours.
No, but they were your users before, I think. Any other questions?
Okay, thank you
very much.